Just to introduce the people on the dais, other than Commander-in-Chief, Vice Admiral M.A. Hampioli, sitting in the center of the table. To his right is Chief of Staff, Rear Admiral Anthony George. Sitting on your right side are the flag officers, senior officers, commanding officers, and station commanders under headquarters Southern Naval Command. നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ പത്രസമ്മേളനം ദക്ഷിണ നാവിക സേനാ മേധാവി വൈസ് അഡ്മിറൽ എം എ ഹംപിയോളിയുടെ മീഡിയ അഡ്രസ്സും അതിനെ തുടർന്ന് നിങ്ങളുടെ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ മറുപടി പറയാനുമായിരിക്കും. ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാനുള്ള രീതി ഞാനിവിടെ ഒന്ന് വിശദമാക്കാം. CMCയുടെ മീഡിയ അഡ്രസ്സിന് ശേഷം ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കേണ്ടവർ തങ്ങളുടെ പേരും മീഡിയ ഹൗസും പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തിയതിനു ശേഷം ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കേണ്ടതാണ്. ആദ്യ അവസരത്തിൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരു ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കാം. എല്ലാവരുടെ അവസരം കിട്ടിയതിന് ശേഷം തുടർന്നുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ആവാം. Without any further ado, may I request the Commander-in-Chief to start the proceedings, sir.
What came to fore during COVID-19 was the immense benefit to mankind by way of helping out one another. The Indian forces, not only the Navy, the armed forces of the Union, the paramilitary forces, our health warriors, healthcare warriors, all of them came together for a national effort. And the Navy was in a manner no different. It all started the year before last, where 3,992 Indian nationals were evacuated from Iran, Maldives and Sri Lanka on board Indian naval ships. Just as the second wave broke out in the month of April-May this year, 10 Indian warships, incidentally primarily, they do not have that kind of lifting capacity and loads like merchant ships, but using innovative means and much to the compromise of certain safety, they took the risks and eventually transported almost 1,150 metric tons of liquid oxygen and almost about 317 kiloliters of oxygen in oxygen cylinders from countries as far ranging as from the Persian Gulf to the Southeast Asian countries. There was immense goodwill and bridges of friendship which have been built during COVID times, in keeping with the Prime Minister's vision of security and growth for all in the region. Specifically insofar as the Southern Naval Command is concerned, during COVID times, a lot of help was extended locally. You would all be aware that the ships of the Southern Naval Command were utilized as oxygen express to provide oxygen cylinders and COVID-related medical equipment to the islands of Lakshadweep. 138 hospitals, government hospitals, were looked at and given advice insofar as fire and safety security is concerned. And this was spanning across all the 14 districts of Kerala. In addition, people were provided from the Southern Naval Command to man the hospitals in Ahmedabad, Patna and Lakshadweep. There have been a lot of other help extended to the civil authority during the incessant rains in May of this year, as also in October this year. Navy has been at the forefront insofar as indigenization and Make in India initiatives are concerned, and that is in keeping with Atmanirbhar Bharat. As we speak, there are almost about 40 ships which are under construction, and of almost about 49 ships whose contracts are going to be concluded, most of which will be built in Indian shipyards. And there is a big aspect here when we build ships in Indian shipyards. We provide the employment, the livelihood to our people. We get the medium, micro, small scale industries going. It provides a boost to the Indian economy. And a big example is here. Incidentally, I must say that the Indian Navy started shipbuilding and we made the first indigenous ship in the year 1960. And we have an example standing here, that is ISC-1, that is Vikrant, which has almost 75% of indigenous content of its total cost and employs almost 2,000 personnel by the MDL, but the kind of employment that is given to the ancillary industries goes to almost about 12,000 personnel and that many livelihoods. I must also make a point here that insofar as Make in India initiatives and our tie-ups with the academia, with the startups, there have been a lot of initiatives which have been taken by the Southern Naval Command by way of interacting with the IITs, interacting with other universities like the Nirma University, the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, for collaborative R&D research, for exchange of ideas, and for also facilitating projects and requirements of the Indian Navy. I must also bring out the fact that the Indian Navy continues to be environmentally very conscious, and the Southern Naval Command won the prestigious Golden Peacock Environment Management Award for the year 2020 for all its efforts such as rejuvenation of the Vandurti Channel by way of using of non-biodegradables, afforestation drives like the Miyawaki forests, and so on and so forth. And it was a community endeavor wherein not only officers and men of the Southern Naval Command participated, but the families and the children too have participated in all these activities. That said, I would stop here because I can go on, but I think the show is yours this afternoon, and I am ready to take on any question that you would like to pose along with me and my team who are here. They are a very able team under me and they have done an excellent job. I have just taken over, as you are aware. I am just 1 day old now in the Southern Naval Command. I have come from Edimala, where I was commanding the Indian Naval Academy. Please be free to ask questions. Slightly loud. You could kindly introduce yourself and you can tell the press house that you're coming from.
That's it.
I'm Joseph Martin. I'm from Bhubaneswar. So my question is, because there are a lot of reports saying about the safety of the dam of Mullaperia, and how concerned are you, because you are also in Kochi? It will be badly affected if there is anything happening to Mullaperia.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. As I said, since I'm just about a day old, I am trying to understand many things. Notwithstanding, I am given to understand that the subject matter that you just asked about is sub judice. So I think let the law of the land take its course, because I think insofar as jurisprudence is concerned, it will fall in the ambit of the legal system. If there's anything that you would like to amplify.
Next question. Mike.
Can you repeat the question?
In and around Lakshadweep, are we planning to enhance our presence?
Are we planning to enhance our presence in Lakshadweep, sir, in view of the present geopolitical situation?
Thank you, Mr. Hari, you said.
From Malayalam.
We have one more Hari who has become the first Malayali of the chief of the naval staff. Yeah. So, no, he's a very fine officer and I look up to his leadership. In fact, he assumed command yesterday. Yeah, see, developing the infrastructure of any kind in the many outlying islands is in the interest of the country. And it's not only the Lakshadweep and Minicoy Islands, but also the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where I would say not only the Indian Navy, there is a national effort in looking at developing infrastructure in these islands to improve the connectivity, to facilitate tourism, to make it as a hub for contribution towards blue economy and to increase our national prosperity and give livelihood to everyone. So insofar as Lakshadweep and Minicoy Islands are concerned, the attention is at the highest level, and this highest level that I am referring to is the Niti Aayog. So what is being looked at is development of berthing facilities, insofar as the Navy is concerned, to position naval detachments in these islands. And I am told about an airfield which is being looked at by the Niti Aayog for coming up in Minicoy. So it is in our interest that we develop these islands, and a lot of concerted effort in this direction is being looked at the national level. You see, the kind of workup is one element insofar as training is concerned. That is the shipboard training as a composite unit of all its people. But as you would be aware, I think the Indian Navy has trained in excess of almost about 40,000 odd foreign trainees from 45 different countries over the years, in the last 10 years at least. So, in fact, our country is being looked at for the kind of training quality that we impart, and the bonding and the bridges of friendship that we build up over a period of time. Incidentally, there is a international alumni website which we have just launched, and which would seek that kind of rapport and interplay between the foreign trainees who have graduated from here, keeping in touch with people here. So this one small component, that is that of FOST, which is of course a very important component. It's not that we have not been training foreign ships earlier. We have trained, worked up, or rather, the entire ship as a crew earlier of Mauritius. We have, in the last 1 year, in fact, trained carried out workup of 3 foreign vessels. FOST may correct me if I am wrong. 2. Since I said I'm just 24 hours old, yeah. So we have trained 2. I stand corrected. One was Seychelles FPV that was done in February 21, and we also trained MCGS Barracuda. That was in September 21. So we have trained, and we will continue to do so. Not only that, I remember when I was first here, I had gone to the UK. That was in 2017, and we looked at best practices between the Royal Naval FOST organization, our FOST organization. He is also visited here, and we exchanged the best practices. In as much as the RN Fost is a hub to train ships of the NATO navies, we are looking at being a hub, and it is in keeping with our own vision document of the Flag Officer Sea Training of the Indian Navy. And I must also add that the Flag Officer Sea Training has been made the center of excellence early this year, has been designated as a center of excellence in March 21 by Naval Headquarters, all aimed with one purpose, that we would want to conduct the training of foreign vessels, and definitely in keeping with our immediate neighborhood, because neighborhood first always. So we foster the bonds, and their training, their safety, their welfare is also in our interest. Insofar as insofar as this thing is concerned, about your first question about training ships, I would say that yes, when we do not actually get our ships or replacement ships in time, there is an implication insofar as the life and the extension of life is concerned of our ships which are involved in training. But we always have been giving a new lease to life to these ships by way of extended time for refit and repairs, and making them safe and ready. We also upgrade certain equipment. If we have to change certain diesel engines or machinery, we do that also during the refit time, and give a new lease of life to the ships. The process of procurement definitely is absolutely transparent of the Government of India, and we have to respect the kind of delays if they were to happen because of certain extraordinary circumstances. Insofar as the ship that we are sitting on, that is Veer, extensive work has been carried out in the last refit. A lot of all the engines have been overhauled, and so also our diesel alternators which generate the power. Extensive work has been done on the hull, and the service life of the ship, based on an assessment, has been extended to the year 2025. Incidentally, this ship is almost about 33 years old. Am I right? 35 years old. That is slightly less than my service in the Indian Navy.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Sir, I am Siraj from Malgumi Delhi. So my question is, last couple of years we have faced many problems like flood, COVID pandemic, etc. But in that situation, the Southern Naval Command has done a tremendous job and a good role in the captaincy of Vice Admiral A.K. Chawla for the public service and something like that. So as a new chief, what is your thought and plan about the cooperation between Southern Naval Command and public in service with district administration or something like that?
Thank you, Siraj. Siraj, you mentioned.
Siraj Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Siraj. So, good question. You see, I must really place on record and give due credit to my predecessor, Vice Admiral A.K. Chawla, who, with his team of very fine officers, and I'm blessed that these officers continue with me for some more time, and the men, and the defense civilians, and the entire community here, have done an excellent job, and a lot of work has been done in close coordination, and this is what we call as civil military liaison. I think our relations, our understanding on various issues is extremely good, and it is so, and it has to be so everywhere in any naval station. Technology has only actually given it greater impetus in terms of requirements these days, wherein we can do a video conferencing, we can talk to one another, pick up the phone, and these lines of communications are very, very old. So any adversity that we are faced with, be it the kind of diving assistance which is required. I think last year the Southern Naval Command gave diving assistance on almost about 20 occasions in the state of Kerala. The Chalanam floods that happened, Idukki Dam. So all these kind of activities wherein assistance is required is on the fly, and there is complete synergy, complete unison, complete understanding of each other's strengths and also the vulnerabilities. That means there are some things which we cannot do, or it is beyond us in terms of capacities, or something which we can do together, and there is a complete understanding. I must tell you, there is a lot of coordination which happens by way of regular meetings with the district and the state administration on various issues. I must tell you that just yesterday when I had called on the Honorable Chief Minister and the Chief Secretary, I raised one or two issues like the water supply at the naval base at Rameshwaram, as also in Erimala and in Dronacharya. And I mean, it was, to my surprise, I knew that work has already commenced on that, and they were assured me of fulfilling the requirements for the Southern Command at the earliest. So a lot of interaction takes place, and as I said, based upon, to give you an example, in my opening statement I said, based upon the request of the authorities, the local authorities, where a fire and safety audit was carried out for almost about 138 government hospitals all over 14 districts in the state of Kerala. I think it was carried out between the 14th to 26th of May this year.
Very short time.
In a very short time. And there were almost 25 teams comprising a total of approximately 100 personnel who were deployed all across, and whatever are the things which are required to be addressed was handed over to the district collectors and the local administration. And I must also tell you that it is not only in times of distress. Ordinarily, there is a lot of community help and community work which is being done. For example, one of the Naval Wise Welfare Association Southern Region has got an outreach program which actually visits the orphanages and the old age homes, and there have been regular contributions to relief camps when they were set up. Old age homes and orphanages were visited at Palluruthi, at Vaduthala, as also at Aluva, and recently the Matru Chhaya old age home and orphanages were visited in Aluva, and as I speak some work is being looked at to be done to improve the infrastructure in these orphanages and old age homes. Yeah, there is an old age home at Fort Kochi also, I'm forgetting the name. Good homes. A lot of work is being done in all these aspects. So it is not only, it is at all times that we need to reach out to the community. I must underscore one thing, and this you may place it on record. All officers of the Indian Navy, the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force, when they graduate from their basic academies, be it the National Defence Academy, Indian Naval Academy, Erimala, Indian Military Academy, OTAs, they take a solemn pledge that they will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India, even to the peril of its lives, even to the peril of their lives. And this is what we work for, that we serve. We join the Navy not to work. We join the Navy to serve. What do we serve? We serve the Constitution of the country, the nation, the service, the people and the ideals. I have finished.
Thank you. Next
Sir,
question.
I am from
Thank you, madam. Thank you. That's a very good question, and of course a very current question which is continues to be asked. Yes, in terms of the capabilities that China has built up and continues to build up is something that has been factored and continues to be factored in our own capability development plans, not only of the Navy but also across the services. And all these plans are integrated in what we call as the long-term integrated perspective plan of all the three services to develop capabilities against envisaged, I would say, threats or challenges. Thank you.
Next question, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Shrikant, I am from Trinity Follows. Sir, recently drug trafficking is increasing through serums day by day. How Navy is going to tackle this situation, this issue?
Thank you. Yes, I do agree that the scourge of drugs, arms smuggling, human trafficking, gun running is a scourge of mankind which we all have to combat. I would say that the huge expanse of the oceans and the seas have certain regulations and rules which are governed by the UNCLOS, a treaty which you would all be aware. But there are vast expanses in the ocean which are where it's also a place for a lot of lawless, unlawful activities I just brought out. And because of the expanse, it cannot be policed 24/7. So I would say that the high seas by convention are one of the most unregulated, unpoliced waters across the world. So there have been a lot of sea routes where these activities have been taking place. You all must have read in the papers, and you must be privy to the information that in March 19, around 18th of March 19, Samarth, the Coast Guard ship, she apprehended a Sri Lankan vessel, Ravi Chansi or something was the name if I am not mistaken, with almost 300 kgs of drugs, about 5 AK-47s and some hundreds of rounds of ammunition. A month later, on the 19th of April this year, Suvarna, INS Suvarna intercepted again a Sri Lankan vessel which again had about 300 kg of heroin worth a couple of thousands of crores in the open market. So the fact that these catches or apprehensions have been successful is based on the fact that there is a lot of again synergy between the maritime forces of the country, that is the Coast Guard and the Navy, and also the Maritime Police, and a lot of exchange of information with our own intelligence organizations who give us prior information. There are also certain information sharing mechanisms between friendly foreign countries, and you all must be aware that we are monitoring whatever activities happen at sea to the extent feasible at a location called the IFC IOR. The IFC IOR is a hub of information wherein we have got representatives of various countries. It's in Delhi. We monitor information, exchange information, match it with our own information, and initiate operations. Operations, of course, are always initiated jointly, and everybody is kept informed.
Thank you. Next question.
I I would also like to emphasize one aspect here, sorry, about the fact that finally, all these things have to come to the shore somewhere. Now, if these things come to the shore, it is the fishing community, the fishing villages, the local people, the local militia, who actually are our eyes and ears, the country's eyes and ears. Because nothing can happen without the knowledge of the local people. So, together, whilst whatever we can do, we will do at sea, but together we all need to integrate. It's not that the fishing communities have not been helping us. In fact, they have been a great strength of help and information. And that's what, when it becomes a national effort, we should be able to eradicate this common scourge of mankind.
Thank you. Next question, please. Chalo. Chalo.
അടുത്ത അൽജസീറ TV അൽജസീറയിലേക്ക് വന്ന ഒരു വാർത്ത, ഇന്ത്യ മൗറീഷ്യസിലെ ഒരു ദ്വീപ് സംരംഭിച്ചു. ആളില്ലാത്തൊരു ദ്വീപ്. നമ്മൾ 7 നിലയെന്നാണ് അതിൻ്റെ എയർഫീൽഡ് നിർമ്മിക്കാൻ വേണ്ട സാമഗ്രികളെ എത്തിച്ചത്. അതിൻ്റെ കമ്പനി ഉള്ളത് മുംബൈയിലുള്ള ഒരു കമ്പനിയാണ് മാൻ പവർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. എയർഫീൽഡിൻ്റെ ഏകദേശം 90% പൂർത്തിയാക്കിയതായി അൽജസീറ റിപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നു. അത് ശരിയാണോ? എങ്കിൽ അത് പൂർത്തിയായി.
Which India is building in Mauritius. Built by Indians. Company recently saw the news in Al Jazeera.
Officially നമുക്ക് ഇതിനെ പറ്റി ഒരു വന്നിട്ടില്ല. ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യയുടെ ഒരു ഡിസിഷൻ അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടി ഇന്ത്യൻ നേവിക്ക് അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടി. Next question.
Hi sir, I'm Hari from ANI. I'm connecting my question to the area 1 of our in the backdrop of China's increasing forays into the Indian Ocean region. Earlier there were some reports that Indian Navy is going to acquire more unmanned aerial and underwater platforms to ramp up its surveillance capabilities. What's the current status? Thank you.
Yes, to answer your question, see, technology is now actually, you are very right, is now moving on to the lesser use of human beings in a man-machine interface with a little bit of direction by human beings and most of the things being done by machines. That is the advent of big data, artificial intelligence, and the many things that machines are able to do. So warfare, yes, is slowly creeping into the unmanned warfare kind. So for your information, very recently the Honorable Defence Minister of the country unveiled a unmanned vehicle roadmap, and it was released by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it is looking at unmanned vehicles across all domains for the utilization of everything. So that roadmap is what will be looked at and will be followed in times to come.
Thank you. Next question, please. We have finished with one. We'll go to the second question.
Last time नौसेना एक डिसीजन लिया था कि नौसेना में लेडीज का महिलाओं का पार्टिसिपेट कराने की बहुत सा प्रोसेस
Induction of early induction in Indian Navy. The Navy has decided that it will increase. So what is it?
Okay, so I think you are referring to basically women in the Indian Navy and increased induction. Okay. So See, we started inducting women in the Indian Navy since 1992, and we have, of course, women medical officers. We have women across various branches, and the thing which I want to bring out is starting December of last year, we started appointing women on board ships also. So, insofar as women induction is concerned, we have women who are actually now manning platforms which will be going to war. Like we have women pilots, we have women observers. Observer was a word which was used earlier. Now it is
Air operations.
air operations officer, and basically they are the people who are the tacticians. They are the people who employ, decide to employ weapons, carry out search, etc., etc. Or I would say that they are the ops room and the ops room officers of an aircraft. So we have these kind of officers also in the which are actually the job is being done by women. So there was a recent Supreme Court order of grant of permanent commission to women officers, because we used to induct them as short service commission officers, and consequent to that we have already started awarding permanent commission to women officers based upon merit and vacancies. So does that answer your question?
With your permission, I add some new ships. I'll just add one more point. Navy has decided to induct women into the ships, women to serve on board ships, and in all future ships that the Navy is going to build, 20% of the living space is being earmarked for women. Okay, and the ships which are currently in commission, we are trying to modify to accommodate the lady officers currently being posted on the ships. This is the information I would like to share.
So I'll talk about the first thing about the third aircraft carrier. Yes, there is no doubt insofar as the Indian Navy is concerned. The fact that we need to have 3 aircraft carriers is underscored, one on each seaboard and the third under maintenance. Now, has the Navy arrived at as to what kind of a carrier that we want? The answer is yes. What is being looked at is a 65,000 ton aircraft carrier with electric propulsion, with EMOLs and CATOBAR. CATOBAR is catapult assisted takeoff but arrested recovery. So now this would actually assist, and the EMOLs would assist heavier aircraft with more weapons which could be launched from the deck of the third aircraft carrier. Now it is still, of course, awaiting the approval or the nod of the ministry, the Government of India. There are a lot of aspects which will require to be looked at. The common thing which normally comes up is pertaining to costs. So we know what the kind of costs that are going to be, but it's not like a one-time outgo. It is spread over 15 years, which actually is affordable insofar as our country is concerned. I must tell you that with the resurgence of the Indian economy, India will be a foremost center of power amongst the world, whose economic strength and technological prowess would need to be underpinned by concomitant military strength, of which maritime power is a very critical component. and hence the need of a third aircraft carrier with a range of capabilities, a central identity. A CBG can perform a range of missions, and all naval missions, with amazing dexterity, with its attributes of mobility, reach, sustenance, flexibility, comprehensive firepower. So, at this stage, the Navy is clear what it wants. I think it is going to be looked at by the ministry to arrive at this reform. The other aspect, yes, so your question actually was very nice and thought-provoking. We have an answer wherein you have said that whatever we have learned through interoperability exercises, etc., has it been dovetailed? Yes. What actually happens is there is a lot to gain, a lot to give also, and many best practices when we operate with ships of foreign navies. We learn, and they also learn, because mutatis mutandis. We embark what we know as sea riders, elicit information, clear a few doubts on certain aspects, learn better seamanship techniques. We also have a very healthy competition as to who can fire better. We make friends, extremely important. So all these aspects in a manner get dovetailed into our training philosophies, mid-course corrections in training. It's not only related to training, it's also related to many other aspects, like shipbuilding. Okay, how inclined are their ladders? What is the size of their bunks or beds? What is the color of lighting in the ship? Is it ergonomic to the human eye? How many people do they have? How many people man these engines as compared to us? How sophisticated are their weapons and sensors? So there is a lot of inputs, and they get, of course, dovetailed because we learn from one another. Does that answer it?
Thank you. Next question, please.
Joseph, I want to ask you, because the headlines everywhere says that it's talking about Omicron, and the pandemic is not ending. Further, that Navy is a closed community, and is it mandatory for the naval persons and the Navy persons to take vaccination? Because the vaccination is not fully protective, because it's still the variants are coming and it is giving up. So, do you have any other scientific research going on in DRDO especially for the Navy personnel? One, and whether you would be prompted to try Ayurveda and homeopathic stream of medicine to find a therapy or a remedy for this pandemic?
Yes. So, I go by what the previous Chief of Naval Staff had mentioned. In media, he mentioned that, caregivers cannot be care seekers. Wherein, as I mentioned earlier, that we are bound by the constitution of the country to serve the people, the country, the service and its ideals, even to the perils of our lives. And hence, we see ourselves as givers rather than seekers. And because firstly we are givers, we have to adhere to all kinds of protocols in the most meticulous and the diligent manner that we do. I'm making an exception because I know I'm on camera. I'm not wearing the mask. The fact of the matter is we adhere to the protocols. Now, in keeping with the directives of the Government of India, vaccination drive for all armed forces personnel. I think that was also with the intent that we were one of the first set of people in the country to be immunized or vaccinated, so that we can subsequently help and continue to help the common public. Now, there has been no side effects of any kind insofar as the vaccination that we all have been administered. Either it was a Covishield or the Covaxin, depending upon what came to us. So Omicron, of course, is a new mantra which we need to be guarding against. Definitely, because of the kind of mutation that has happened, and we are all live to the situation the world over, as also in India. But we cannot let our guard down. That is the whole thing. And we have our own SOPs, our own precautions that we all need to take. We have to triumph over this adversity. And the final answer is when we all of us take the kind of precautions or get infected and develop the antibodies. But we need to triumph over this adversity, which we will. So that's about. Have I answered your question fully or?
And to very next question. Sir, you are well known for your anti-submarine warfare activity. Where are we in the path of modernization of our submarine?
See, we had a 30-year shipbuilding plan which was approved in the year 1999. As per the approved plan, we were supposed to have built 24 submarines. Can you hear me? 24 submarines between the year 2000 to 2030, and in two distinct phases. Yes, we have lagged behind insofar as the submarine building program is concerned. But the first set of these submarines are the ones which you are seeing, which are being built at MDL. That is the Project 75 class of submarine, the Scorpion class of submarines. The last of the submarine, what's the name? Vela. The fourth or the fifth? Fourth. The fourth of the submarine of that class, that is Vela, was commissioned fairly recently. You will also be aware that under Project 75I, that is Project 75 India, AIP capable submarines are also going to be built under the strategic partnership model. The strategic partnership involves partnership with an Indian PSU or a private industry and tie up with foreign firms. So under Project 75 India, which has been approved by the Defence Acquisition Council early this year, two firms, that is MDL and L&T, if I am not mistaken, have been nominated as strategic partners to build these submarines here in India. And this strategic partnership is in keeping with our own Make in India initiative and the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Because again, it will give livelihood, build skills, employment, give a fillip to the ancillary industries, the MSMEs, and also more importantly, transfer the technology which we require and give a boost definitely to the economy. So insofar as modernization is concerned, like I said in the case of Tir earlier, so when we cannot keep pace, then we need to look at retrofitting, upgrading equipment, spend a lot of money on repairs of ships and submarines alike. But we continue to do.
Thank you. With respect to the time constraint, we would like to take only 2 more questions now. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Piyush from Andhra Pradesh. So already know that the girls' scientific is seen to increasing nowadays. Could you please tell me what the Navy has taken precautions for it?
Could you please repeat the question louder?
So already know that the girls' scientific through sea has been increasing nowadays. Could you please tell me what the Navy has taken the precautions for it?
Terrorist activities have increased through seas and what precautions Navy has taken?
So, I mean, just to give you a correct perspective, besides threats across our borders, emerging challenges are many, of which is only one aspect. The other challenges, insofar as we are concerned, that is challenges to our energy needs, natural resources like water, information systems, financial markets, pandemics, and so on. And added to this is the ugly spectre of internal insurgencies and maritime terrorism. You actually brought on one aspect of maritime terrorism. So, I would say that the biggest initiative that has been taken has been the national effort that we all got in after the Mumbai attacks. There were a lot of changes which have been brought about, wherein the commanders-in-chief have been designated as commanders-in-chief of Coastal Command with the entire ambit of security, both offshore and onshore, to a certain extent, being made falling under the ambit or under the commanders-in-chief. So besides this process, now a lot of things came out of that in terms of coastal security, wherein firstly mechanisms have been established by way of coastal coordination committees, etc., at various levels, at the national level, at the state level, at the local level, district level, setting up of the maritime police, coastal radar chain network which came up, sharing of information which has happened, accounting for perhaps every movement at sea, be it the smallest fishing vessel to the biggest ships. All this has come to the fore. Besides, of course, as I said, exchange of information, even with friendly foreign countries. There are a lot of exercises which, but before that I must tell you that the Government of India rightfully augmented the capability of both the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard by giving the approvals and develop capabilities by way of equipment. That means we got boats, the fast interceptor crafts which you see. They gave us more manpower, which is known as the Sagar Prahari Bal. All that thing is in place now. They've been distributed all over the place, who are looking aspects of coastal security, of which maritime terrorism is one part. So we have been carrying out a lot of exercises. We have this exercise known as Sagar Kavach and Sea Vigil.
Sea Vigil is pan-India.
Sea Vigil is a pan-India exercise. And
First time it was conducted this year.
Yeah, you can mention about that.
We have these exercises which we conduct now on Sea Vigil and Sagar Kavach. Sea Vigil is a national level exercise where all the stakeholders, maritime police, customs, fishing community, and the agencies in the central government all are involved, and we conduct this regularly to improve the surveillance part and try and intercept to get drugs, terrorism, these things. So a mechanism has been put into place, and the first exercise was conducted in 21 called Sea Vigil, and this we intend to carry forward every year. And as the more number of exercises we carry out, this system will become more robust, and we will be able to address this threat which is slowly emerging at sea.
So all I can sum up is that there is a national effort. It's a national effort and not a sole Navy effort. Of course, Navy is the primary leader in all these aspects.
We would like to take the last question.
Hello sir, myself Ananta Narayanan from the Times of India. Sir, my question is, just like any other external threats or terrorism, one of the main challenges the country right now facing is climate change. So how are we planning, how is Southern Naval Command planning to tackle this issue, like achieving carbon neutrality or fighting the climate change issue?
Zero waste.
Would like to take on, say something? I'll add that.
Climate changes.
I'll take on some. See, Southern Naval Command, you will be aware, has been in the forefront to reduce the carbon footprint here. And a large number of initiatives were taken in the last 3 years in the naval base here. You'll be aware that a lot of plastic waste which is lying in our channel has been cleared by us. And next to the Batuti village, the channel has been cleaned up by us. That is one. And here we have a waste segregation system in place where the dry and wet waste is disposed of in a scientific manner. The wet waste is collected centrally and is converted into manure, and which is used for by the community here. And the dry waste, of course, is centrally disposed of here. And we have a plastic recycling plant. So all the plastic generated in this particular naval base is collected and recycled. So we have initiated a large number of measures to keep the environment clean here. And the district administration also has been coming over to our place to have a look at how we are managing it. And on a larger scale, the state government intends replicating what we have done.
Okay, I'll just add on. It's absolutely right, whatever Admiral Anthony George said. I'll just add on. I think it was almost about 5 years back that the Indian Navy made the first roadmap for conservation of energy and initiatives to stop degrading the environment. A whole list of issues were identified, and subsequently it was an action plan. What is it that we need? Based on that, the Southern Naval Command has also made a roadmap for environmental initiatives. Now, what are these? Essentially all aimed at reducing the carbon footprint and looking at energy saving measures. So insofar as firstly, there are a lot of issues. So I'll start rather randomly. Electricity. Besides solar panels, of course, which has given tremendous fillip, use of LED lights, street lights which are to be converted, adoption of these Griha norms in all these kind of construction works. Now the solar panel, I must tell you that in Edimala, we have got one of the largest solar power panels, 3 megawatt solar power panel. And we are actually giving it to the grid locally. And we have saved, we means the Indian Navy has saved 2 crore rupees in electricity charges over 1 year. Now, besides that, so small things like use of solar panels, for water heating, etc., to get hot water, the geysers and things like that. Water management, use of biofuels is something that is being looked at. In fact, we are looking at using of biofuels to run ships, but that is some time away. The whole idea is to reduce carbon footprint. Now, here in Southern Naval Command also, as I mentioned in my opening address, there was this Miyawaki forest, the Japanese technique, which has been used to increase the green cover. Tree plantations have been carried out across the board, across almost 30 odd stations of the Southern Naval Command. Units, not stations. In Erimala, where I was there myself, I must tell you that there were almost about 10,000, 20,000 trees which have been planted over the last 2.5 years. These casuarina trees all along the beach, etc. And we used the MNREGA workers for that. Then, to give you an example, besides of course our plastic recycling drive which has been brought out, clean ship drives, etc. One of the units of Southern Naval Command, that is INS Hamda, it achieved 18% reduction of carbon footprint in 1 year, and they measured that. In fact, before I came here, one of the KRAs in Erimala was to measure the carbon footprint, how much it is, does it meet the laws. So there are a lot of measures which are in place to ensure that the environment is clean and green, because I think that is the greatest gift we can give to our future generations. Otherwise, we'll be held to blame and we need to be accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of today's press
If
conference.
there's any last question, we can still take on. Any last question? Yes, please. And because your perspective is different, his perspective is extremely different, and it's very nice interacting because it gets us also thinking to understand the perspective and the things that trouble you and the kind of the way you ask questions. So thank you. It's been personally very educative for me, and thanks for being here. It's very good, valuable time. This is annual activity, and definitely we'll interact more on different occasions. May God bless you, and I wish you and your families a very happy new year. But before that, a fantastic Navy Day on the 4th of December. Thank you.